Uh,
All right, Longhorn fans, welcome to Rivalry Week. Texas versus Texas A&M is back. Um, Last meeting, 2011. Um, Texas currently number three in the nation, 5.5 point favorites over A&M. It is at Kyle Field. Over unders at 48.5. We are the 41st acre. We're unfiltered, a little biased, actually more biased than normal this weekend, but 100% truthful and honest. So looking briefly at the history before we get into our takes on this game, overall record, Texas leads it 76-37 to 5. First meeting was in 1894. And then the last meeting, most notably, Justin Tucker walk-off 27-25 at Kyle Field, sending them to the SEC. Now they're welcoming us to the SEC. So interesting turn of events. A lot of hostility between athletic directors and fans, and who's better over the last 13 years. Um, Now they can prove it on the field. Um, Winning streaks. Texas' longest streak is at 10. A&M had at one point a 6 game win streak, so edge Texas there. Um, anyway, excited about this game. Um, Last week recap: Texas played Kentucky. Eh, we talked about that in our post game. There were some things they could improve upon. I think we'll talk about that. But yeah, defense was great, and then the last drive to end it. But looking at this game, we've got injuries with Quinn's ankle. A&M's got some injuries as well. I know Le'Veon Moss, I thought was one of the best running backs in the nation. He's out. But Reuben Owens should get the start, and he's a freshman, I think, and um, I think he's expected to
Ruben
be a good
Owens is out
player
for the
for
season.
A&M.
Ruben Owens, he's out for
He's out for
this.
the season.
Oh,
I
he's
know.
out. I'm sorry.
Well,
There
you're
you go.
good. It's weird because they have him showing up as like potentially could return, and he's not going to come back right now. Maybe playoffs or postseason stuff, but he won't be there.
Yeah, so we've got a couple other Longhorn injuries that we've noted that have been out for several games, so we won't talk on those. But most notably, Quinn looked a little bit shaky. Second half of that Kentucky game looked like his mobility was limited, and so that's kind of the main our main initial thought. Let's get into initial thoughts. Justin, how about you start? I don't know if you want to talk about emotions going into the game.
Yeah,
Maybe some of the awards finalists
yeah,
or non-finalists.
yeah. They announced some of the big time national awards finalists were announced recently, and some names will probably perk up a little bit for Texas fans. I mean, we got Kelvin Banks as a finalist for the Outland Trophy, award. That's not exactly groundbreaking or anything like that. He's one of the best linemen in the country, so it's good to see him get a finalist spot. And then, of course, for Jade, he's a finalist for the Thorpe Award. That's going to be a pretty contested award. I'm looking forward to see how that plays out because there's some really good DBs out there. But we know, I mean, we've been watching him all season, so it'll be fun to see if he can kind of put a stamp on his final resume to see what can happen there. The biggest one was the Anthony Hill Buckus Award snub. I mean, he was a semifinalist and not a finalist. We watch him all the time. We know he's one of the best linebackers out there. I'm not sure if they just like if you look at it, it's kind of a junior and senior laden finalist group, which makes sense. Maybe it's kind of a career like hey, you've been doing not just good this year, but also your career. But Anthony Hill is one of the most exciting and impactful linebackers out there. So it's for us, a little surprising not to see him on the finalist sheet, just because we know how impactful he is. And he's also on one of the best, if not the best defenses in the league. So you would think the best linebacker on the best defense in the country would get that finalist nod. So a little odd, but maybe it inspires him to go out and play better and harder the next few games they have. So all things considered, you're seeing Longhorn names in those finalist positions for those big time. It usually means we're going the right direction.
Hey, Outland Trophy. One thing to note there too is that if we win that one, Kelvin wins that one, that's 2 years in a row for us, which says a lot about our recruiting on the offensive line and defensive line for
Big
the
time.
past few years, right? With Tavondre taking it last year.
Yep.
Big time.
So,
All right, Brett, initial thoughts from you, sir.
uh, anxiety, dread, nervousness. I don't know how else to categorize it. This is the one that I've certainly had circled. It's a different type of rivalry, right? At least for me personally. OU, it's like that's our hated rival. It's a very much a back and forth year over year game, but I don't know any Sooners. Maybe that's because we've put up like a border wall up on the Red River and we don't allow them to cross into our neck of the woods anymore. But Aggies, they're just everywhere. I've got several family members, distant family members, friends, um, coworkers. I know a lot of Aggies, and this is the one game that's like if you lose this game, there's and there it's just going to be rubbed in your face. And me as such a big Longhorn fan, I wear my Longhorn emotions on my sleeves, and so it's really easy to get me to overreact or to have some sort of emotional reaction to these types. So I've had this one kind of circled. Like I said, I'm dreading it. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to get the rivalry back. I've got a lot on the line here on just personal capital weighing into this game. Um, but at the end of the day, it's how well these teams have prepared. Who wants it more in a rivalry game like this? Um, we're going to see the best that both teams can bring, and that's going to determine the outcome of this game. It's just so much more than just a 1 year game, right? There's so much behind this one. All like Ben, you alluded to it really well with the '80s, notably not being able to come to an agreement to schedule this game in the past 13 years. Um, Neither team wants to lose this one. A&M, after what we did to them in the last one, that they're coming for blood. So uh,
And a baseball coach.
let's not talk about that. No bad juju.
Oh, it's already out there.
Yeah.
I'm with you. And I didn't touch on this earlier, but yeah, I mean, this is one of the greatest rivalries out there. I mean, the ticket sales kind of show you exactly what not only the fans, but a lot of the country is going to think about the matchup. It could end up being a total dud and a blowout one way or the other, but it could end up being just as good as the last one was in 2011. Um, so, you know, at the end of the day, we've been looking forward to this week. And honestly, I've got a ton of Aggies here in Austin for some crazy ass reason. But it's super fun. I mean, we've been talking trash all week already. I didn't start it, but I'm ready to finish it. Okay. And we tried to get some of them actually to come on this podcast, but apparently none of them are 98 percenters. They're all 2 percenters. So no one wanted to come on here and talk about their football team today. So we'll
Well, it requires an internet connection, and Aggies are still a few years behind.
But man, no, what a fun week. I mean, just listening to other talking heads and reading a bunch of articles and like just the internal feeling I have. I've got 8 cousins and like 4 or 5 aunts and uncles who are all big time Aggies. And that's not including like my dad's cousins and their kids and my mom's cousins. You know what I mean? This is a state divided, family divided type of just internal rivalry that we love. And we're glad to have it back. Look, say whatever you want over the past 13 years and how it ended and how it went since then. We all wanted to keep playing the game as fans. Okay. You may say, no, we didn't need you. We had more to lose. Whatever. Shut up. Okay. We all wanted the game. Don't act like you're bigger than that. So at the end of the day, it's good. It's good to see it back happening. And if any of the baseball, basketball, softball team, I'm sorry, games and matches we've had over the years are kind of showing you what this rivalry is, this football game is going to be just 10, 100x times that. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, this was always growing up the pinnacle of the season and you know, the luxury of growing up in the 90s and the 2000. I mean, Texas like dominated this series from what I remembered. So this is a winning tradition for me against Texas A&M. Now, if you lived in the 80s, A&M had the advantage in the 1980s, but 90s, 2000, Texas had the clear edge in the win column. From 2000 to 2005, they won 6 in a row. So those are some good years that, right in the heart of the Mac Brown era where we consistently spit out 10 wins You just show up and we would win, sort of thing. And that, you know, didn't quite happen the end of the era. And as we've seen with Mac Brown, he's lost his edge and he's getting ousted at North Carolina. Um, but yeah, just the tradition of winning and the end of the game, there's again, Texas generally had something to play for. And then this is your biggest rival looking to knock you off. Let's talk about favorite memories from these games real quick. Mine has to be 1998, Ricky Williams breaking a 22-year record from Dorsett for the NCAA all-time rushing um, record. Uh, I looked it up, and I think Ron Dane broke it the year after, um, in like three less games as well. And then somebody else broke it later on, but it took like 10 extra games. So, but that was awesome, and he did it in style too. It was a 60-yard run, and he just ran all over the Aggie defense that year. So it was really fun. I think I was at that. I might have been at that game that year. So that yeah, I think I was at that game. 1998 in Austin. That's probably about when me and my dad started going to games every year. So that was a lot of fun. Brett, favorite moments, favorite rivalry memory.
Yeah, our sophomore year, the last year of Colt McCoy, and really Mac Brown's last championship runs there. Well, I was sitting. I had a lot of friends from high school that went to A&M, and that year they got me into the student section. Um, Actually, me and my girlfriend into the student section, and so similar to other stories of Longhorns. You're the lone burnt orange beacon of light and education in that godforsaken student section of theirs. So you're getting chewed at the entire time. And I remember it was a close game because if y'all recall, we were undefeated going into this game. I think it was either the last or second to last game of the season, depending on how the weeks how the weekly schedule panned out. But at this point in time, Texas had everything to lose, and I think A&M was like a mediocre 5-5 or 6-5 or something like that. And they kept it close. I think they scored first. There was some back and forth. I think the first half was a one-score game, and then I want to say Texas finally broke through on like a 60, 70-yard run by Colt McCoy for a touchdown. A&M had a chance to bring it to a one-score lead late. I think they were down 10, and Randy Bullock, the fat kicker, y'all remember him?
Oh yeah.
He missed a field goal that would have brought it to a one-score game. And I think at that point in time, Texas just maintained that 10-point lead and won out. But yeah, I sat in the student section for that. Went deafening quiet on that long run by Colt McCoy. I think Colt McCoy ended up with like 300 yards passing, 200 yards rushing in that game. He was just an absolute machine. So I was there. I got to witness that and all the hatred that came with being that Longhorn at Kyle Field.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking obviously before recording. I have a very similar story. I was at the 2011 game, same thing. Had a buddy. We ended up getting student section tickets at Kyle Field, right behind the core or the band. I forget which one it is or if they're the same, but that was an unbelievable experience. I mean, a religious experience almost. Like that was probably the first time that I realized kind of truly what a home field advantage was. Because at the time, Texas wasn't the best home field advantage, right? We had a lot of doctors and lawyers sitting on their hands waiting for something to cheer for, right? They were very um, blah, right? But those Aggies, man, they get up, they yell, they scream the entire time. They're always behind their team, which is what makes that stadium just so raucous and fun to play at, I'm sure, as an opposing team. So same thing, man. That game was a back and forth game. I think we picked off Tannehill 3 times, who ended up being a NFL draft pick and
Yep.
playing for many, many years, right?
Yeah.
Um,
He was a receiver in that 2009 matchup.
yeah, exactly. So you watch Colt do his thing. I had a very similar thing. I watched Case do his thing, running down with a big old goofy smile on his face and just holding on to the ball and getting us in field goal range. And I mean, the sways of emotion in that game as an away or as a visiting fan was just wild, right? Because one moment you can't talk to the person next to you, and then the next moment, the football's flying through the field goal post for a Texas win, and it gets quiet. The only thing you can hear is the Texas fans up in the corner. So what a cool experience. I'm sure the players are going to be ready for something like that, but it is really neat for the fans too. So I love the rivalry coming back. I'm glad it's worth something. We're going to the SEC championship if we win. They're going if they win. It's all coming down to this, and it's exciting.
And both of those scenarios is a first time, right? If Texas goes to the SEC championship, it's the first time Texas has been, obviously. But if A&M wins this game, it's the first time they go to the SEC championship in their 13 years in the SEC.
Yeah.
So oh, how great would it be to be able to say that we got to it first, and we did it by beating them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the if Texas wins, they still had an easy schedule. If A&M wins, it's the SEC is tough. Like
Yeah.
I wish it was just, yeah, the SEC is tough at the top. I mean, in the middle, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's a tougher overall conference, but it's been very top heavy, and we've seen that with Georgia and Alabama. Um, where's A&M fall this year? I don't know that they've played anybody. Notre Dame was they lost Notre Dame early. Teams are both incredibly different by now. LSU is not good. South Carolina beat A&M pretty handily. So that's interesting. Different, longer conversation. We got any Aggies in the family?
Oh,
My
huh.
wife's my wife's an Aggie. So is her sister and her husband. So um, we will not be watching that game together. And
Smart.
yeah, I think we'll be in separate rooms. Being
Um,
this is the first time this game's been back since we've been married, so we'll see how it goes this first time. Maybe we try to watch it together, but
Ooh.
um, we'll see. Brett, you got some Aggies in your family, huh? They're like multiplying. Um, did
Yeah.
they apply to Texas or just decide to go to A&M from the get-go?
I think if I remember, my oldest sister, she applied to Texas, couldn't even get in. But yeah, man, like my family is so on my mom's side of the family, I'm the oldest grandchild, and so you kind of hope that that oldest grandchild has a level set mind, and they kind of create a precedent of success for the rest of the family. And I certainly did that. I went to the best university in the state, where there's winning traditions, educational success there, and for whatever reason, didn't catch on.
you set the
Uh,
bar too high, man. It's good.
what?
You set the bar too high.
I guess so. Yeah, you got to manage expectations, right? But yeah, in my family, Aggie derangement syndrome is like an incurable virus. It's just something that's been pervasive. I only have sisters, so when one sister sets the precedent for going, then they start to invite the younger sisters that are still in high school into their little propaganda meetings, and to really brainwash them into getting to go to that university. So all my sisters grew up being Longhorn fans, and as the first one went to A&M, they would bring up the other one, that junior and senior year, those formidable years for high school students, into this Aggie mantra. And then all of a sudden they would carry it. And then the next one would do it for the next sister. So that happened. Then I have cousins as well. They went to A&M. I've got brother-in-laws that went to A&M. I've got cousin-in-laws that went to A&M. So they're everywhere. None of them I would categorize as like a diehard Aggie, except maybe my brother-in-law. But they're everywhere. They are, and they're annoying. Um, I do actually have a fun little bet with my brother-in-law, my youngest sister's husband. Him and I made a big bet at the beginning of the season that whoever wins this game, the loser has to buy. No, I'm sorry. The winner buys the pajamas for the loser to wear on Christmas morning. We're all um, so that we've got that little bet, which is also weighing on me a little bit. But yeah, it's hostile. Ben, to your point, I'm not. I told my family that no Aggies are allowed in my house. on Saturday. Like we're watching my dad, my mom, myself, my wife, a couple friends can all come over to my house to watch the game. All the Aggies, put them in their little group therapy, group think tank, and they can all watch the game together. I'm not letting them do that. I'm going to be too obnoxious, and they're going to piss me off. So I'm
Better.
not even gonna try it.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. Like I said, I've got, I believe, 8 cousins who all went to A&M. I'm the youngest of my cousins on both sides of the family, right? So, I don't know. It was kind of the exact opposite. They all set a precedent of A, and then everybody else went the other way for you. They all set a precedent of B, and I went like, yep, no, I'm not going to that place. I actually didn't even apply. A lot of my cousins and aunts and uncles were like, you would like it. You'd be fine. They were trying to be honest with me, but growing up a Longhorn fan and then my formidable like learning about sports and all that years was Vince Young, right? Like who's not going to want to go to Texas after that? So which I think is the same for all of us, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
that's
was
why I
like,
wanted to go
so
there.
much.
I'm going to go be Vince,
It was it was Texas or bust for me, man.
Oh. So, the tradition for us was always just Thanksgiving. I mean, we would, because back in the day, schools used to let you have like a whole week off, right? So, like, if one half the week we'd go to see one family, and then the other half the week we'd go see the other. We were all, it was a much simpler time. Nobody was, really getting out of college even at that point. So, it's a lot easier to see each other. Now, life is what it is. But I've got some hardcore Aggies in my family. Like, one that has not taken off his class ring since the day he got it. Like, doesn't matter if he's showering, whatever, hasn't taken it off, right? And another one who was actually on the bonfire the day before it collapsed in '99. So, like guys and gals on my side of the family have been through and through on that. Now they'll do all the cheers and all the whooping and all that kind of stuff. They're not obnoxious about it and in your face, but when you get them around all the other ones, it's beat the hell out of and like all that, right? And they do the little heel kick and the point to the skies and all that fun stuff. So it's it's a fun family tradition. I look forward to talking a little crap with them. But yeah, man. I mean, again, it's rivalry renewed and I'm looking forward to it.
All right, let's get into the game and our takes. Can the Texas offensive line protect Quinn and generate a run game like we did to end the game against Kentucky and against Arkansas? Those are the keys to the game. If A&M's able to get pressure on Quinn like Georgia did, um, that I think that's the only chance they have of winning this game is getting into Quinn's face. If he's limited with his mobility at all and takes sacks or just tip balls that get picked or fumbled, it's easy to lose the ball around the pocket there with those big, strong defensive linemen. And I think that's A&M's strength is their defensive line. I think their corners, their DBs definitely got exposed against Auburn, definitely early. Maybe they were looking ahead, but I think I'm worried about the Texas O line. So I think we'll see early on in the first quarter how they perform. Quinn's mobility again, is he able to move around the pocket? And then Texas can't get off to a slow start. Last week, put up 7 points on the first drive against Kentucky. I think that made that game a lot easier. Kentucky, they tried to hang in there all game. Ultimately, Texas talent was too much for them. But in a rivalry game, an emotional game, um, it's harder to come back from. I don't know how this Texas team, they did respond to a deficit against Georgia, right? Outscored them in the second half. However, it was, kind of too much to come back from it. So, can't afford to get off to a slow start. So, we'll see. I am confident in the team though, but I think that's the way A&M wins. Um, Kind of forcing turnovers, making Quinn get uncomfortable in the pocket, and then if we get off this slow start. So, Brett, what are you worried about?
Well, yeah, I mean, Ben, to your point, it's carryover from the Kentucky game. Do we get first half Quinn or do we get second half Quinn? Start this game. Quinn, when he was healthy and he was, settling in the pocket, making his throws, those throws that we're so accustomed to over the linebackers, in between the defensive backs. That was the first half Quinn that we saw. He rolls an ankle, He loses some mobility, maybe he loses some confidence in his ability to move around the pocket, and it's just a completely different dynamic. So I'm certainly worried about that, what kind of carryover we're going to get from that game. Um, I don't know, man. I mean, this is what am I most worried about? I mean, this is going to be such an emotional game. Emotions can be a good and a bad thing in these types of games. A lot of times they lead to game-changing plays, right? Um, an example might be, does somebody take a cheap shot on Quinn, right? Coming up the middle late, Quinn gets the ball off. Someone takes a big hit on Quinn, knowing he's susceptible to injury. Does something like that happen? Shamar Turner for the Aggies has more not roughing the passer, but unsportsmanlike conduct penalties on the team, or he leads the team in unsportsmanlike penalties. So he is not afraid to hit somebody late. And could that happen in this game and adjust the entire game? Sure. Could we get emotional and do something stupid like the late Vernon Broughton hit, right, which changes the entire dynamic of the game? So I'm a little bit worried about that. I'm worried about our running game. I think this defensive line is really good at stopping the run. They're a bunch of big guys. I think each one of those edges weighs over 280, 290 pounds. They set the edge real well. Outside zone's probably not going to be a good option for us. So are we going to be able to run the ball well in between the tackles on inside zone and pulling our guards and our tackles for those types of counter runs and inside runs? I don't know. And then the last thing, penalties. Offensive line has looked really, really good since the Georgia game and not hurting ourselves with holding penalties, with false starts. Can we continue that in a hostile environment at Kyle Field? Always something to watch for because that can be a game changer. Auburn, quite frankly, was awful in this regard last week, but somehow still came out with a victory. But any one of those penalties could have been their downfall, and they could have lost that game. So those are the things that I'm kind of noting as potential game changers to the negative for Texas.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. I think it's turnovers and time of possession, right?
Mm, yeah,
Um, offensive line penalties and all that. Like maybe what you were saying about Turner for the Aggies is, you know, if he's the most penalized, or at least in regards to, unsportsmanlike conduct, that might be a thing where, like, yeah, he does get a late hit, but it's in a crucial time and it converts us from a third and long. And now we got a first down and we just can keep pushing. So if we
yeah,
can maybe just kind of get in his head a little bit, I mean, because it sounds like he'll play emotional, right?
yep,
Uh, and that's what we talked about is like play with emotion, not emotional, right? You got to
yeah,
be able to control it and use it in the right way. And our defense does a great job of that. For the most
yeah,
part, offense does too. What they get into is what you said, like procedural crap, right? And like, too many holding calls and stuff like that. But I think that's SEC refs a little bit too, just kind of screwing things up. My biggest worry is certainly Quinn and his mobility. O-line's got to protect him. Hopefully they realize that he wasn't very mobile beforehand, but hopefully they realize he's certainly not now. And we can get a little bit better protection from him so that they can let him hit some of the dink and dunks because I think that's what we're going to see. We'll try some deep shots, obviously. That's in Sark's blood, right? But I think you'll see a lot of the out routes and swing patterns and stuff like that, like what we did against Vanderbilt, to kind of be that extension of the run game again. I'm feeling really good about the run game. I don't know why. I know they've got a great defensive line, but it's not like Kentucky or Florida or hell Arkansas. Like they've all got big SEC boys out there as well. So I think that the run game, while I am worried about it, right, I think it might be one of the things I'm feeling the most confident in because of Quinn's immobility. And if he can't plant and turn on that back ankle, that the pass game is going to be nothing. And if A&M can tee off on that, it's going to be a big deal, or it's going to be a bad day for Texas. So handle the first 10 to 15 minutes. That crowd is going to be insane, like we talked about. Handle that. If we can go and score first, take the ball, do it. Even if it's a field goal, it's better than nothing. It'll feel like they win and we win,
yeah.
but
That's right.
so if we can score early, that's amazing. If not, I feel confident we can drive the ball a couple of a couple first downs down the field, punt them, pin them back, and then now we'll take advantage and put our defense on the field and put them right where we want, play field position, and then get a score on the second possession. So if that's how it happens, that's how it happens. But if we can start off hot, you're right. I mean, Ben, that's 100% the way to go.
Yeah, I'm with you on taking the points in this game versus what we saw last week, going for it on fourth down on the first drive.
Ooh,
Worked out, but yeah, playing at
One
home versus playing at Kyle Field is a little different, I think, when you make that decision.
yeah.
So, Justin, go ahead and transition into the other things you're confident about going to this game.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, defense. That's the tried and true. It's literally the DNA of the team. The moment's not going to be too big for them. Ant Hill's probably going to ball out because of the snub of the Buckus Award. So let's just get out there, play sound football. The good thing about playing away is that your defense can communicate very easily, right? Like there's no reason for the crowd to be super loud while their offense is out there. So our defense can travel, and they can travel in a big way based on just the talent they have and the depth they have. But to be able to communicate to each other is going to be huge. While on offense, they're going to have to use a lot of silent count, probably change up the cadence a little bit, and use a lot of nonverbals to be able to communicate. The defense should be there and ready to play and holding these guys to less than 300 yards, less than 2 touchdowns, that kind of vibe. So, man, just get after it. It's your last game of the year. You know what you're playing for. You win, you go to the SEC championship. You win, you're in the playoffs, right? So I think the defense, because they play so sound, is going to be there and ready to go.
Yeah. I'm with you. I don't think this, I mean, the defense is a rock. It's the foundation for this team at this point in time. It's the identity, right? And we saw what happens when you put our defense in good positions. And you see what happens when we put our defense in bad positions, like in the Georgia game. So, part of this game is just going to be, where we give them the ball, being able to punt effectively, being able to live to punt. I think it might be an important aspect of this game to put our defense in position. Our defense might score more points than our offense, if we let them. The defense is definitely the rock. For me, outside of the defense, I think it's just getting our playmakers in space, right? I think their defense very much resembles more of Michigan as opposed to Georgia. Whereas Georgia, you've got these ripped up thoroughbreds that can run you down and bull rush, on the edges. Their Texas A&M's defense is a little bit heavier. They're not going to be able to run with our running backs, certainly. They're not going to be able to run with our outside receivers. So if you can get those guys in space, I think like we did against Michigan, I think that's going to be a difference in our offense being successful or not. Is just spreading them out. I think one of the big question marks I have too is how healthy is Isaiah Bond? We still haven't really seen him have that big game since he's been back from injury, right? And he's been our difference maker as far as speed game goes. Can we bust him on get him the ball in space, maybe on a quick slant or one of those screen passes, and he breaks one loose and just outruns everybody on the defense. I think that'd be a big thing to be watching for, just because we have not seen that big breakout from him since his injury. But yeah, I mean, get the ball out, get the ball out. We've got speed. We definitely have them. We've got advantages in the tight end game over there. Linebackers are slow as well. So I'm thinking just get the ball out to those playmakers, spread this defense out. They're not going to be able to keep up.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this is more of a power defensive A&M
Yeah,
team,
yeah,
and you can out finesse them, and then yeah, I think as the game goes on, you wear them down, and they get tired, and you know they got depth obviously, but they'll rotate in some guys that aren't quite as um what's the word you know. uh,
Talented.
technique maybe might not be quite as good, and then you catch them off guard that way. But let's get into players of the game and bold take. I think Brad has question marks around Bond. I'm looking for Isaiah Bond to step up big this game. Like I said, I think A&M's DBs are beatable. We saw it last week. They have a freshman. Yeah, he's good, but Bond should be able to, if he's matched up against him, Bond should be able to take advantage of that. And then Anthony Hill, of course, like Justin said, being snubbed from the Buckus Award, one of the top linebackers in the nation. He's all over the place. And then bold take. I didn't have one. I might come back and say one. Justin.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna go again. Ant Hill's gonna be my defensive player of the game. Just for all the reasons we've talked about. He's very, very good. He's playing at the top of his game. The offensive lineman, Zune or whatever his name was talking crap, saying that he's nothing you'll have ever seen, or he's nothing you haven't seen. Excuse me. Good luck, man. He's he's the ultimate X factor. On offense, I think I got to ride the hot hand with Matthew Golden. He's shown a great connection, especially with Bond being banged up and out. I
especially
think
in the red zone.
especially in the red zone, he has the most
Yeah.
touchdowns on the team. It'll be him and Helm. I'm gonna always say Helm because I just love my tight end, man. That's my boy. But yeah, that connection is just next level with them. So I'm calling three Texas A&M turnovers. We'll get at least 5 sacks. And this is the time. This is when the special teams block / return for a touchdown happens. We've been waiting for it all year. We've been close. I'm trying hard to will it into happening. And I think we run for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns because I think that it's going to come down to protecting Quinn because I'm a little worried about that ankle. But yeah, it's a lot of bold takes there, I realize, but 3 TAMU turnovers, 5 sacks for Texas defense, special teams return / block for a touchdown, and 200 yards on the ground with 3 tutties.
So players of the game on the defensive side, pick an edge, right? All of our edges have looked really good. I don't know if it's going to be Colin Simmons or Trey Moore or Barron Sorrell, but the edge is going to determine how successful Marcel Reed is on the zone read game. If those guys can contain Marcel Reed, it's going to change the entire dynamic of it. You make Marcel Reed throw the ball, and then he's thrown to DBU. So pick an edge. I don't know. Barron Sorrell seems to be really good in these situations. Trey Moore's been played really well against Diego Pavia and the Arkansas quarterback. Can't remember his name right now. Hillen Green, yep. So that's what I'm looking for. On the offense, this has to be Quinn's game. This has to be Quinn's game. Quinn, this is his legacy game. I want to see Michigan Quinn again. I think this defense is very much set up like the Michigan defense, like I was talking to earlier. I want Quinn to be able to put in his legacy that he was the first one to say goodbye to Texas A&M again, right? This is his opportunity to do that. I think it's important to him. I think he grew up a Longhorn fan. He grew up probably watching this game when he was a kid. Time to put the stamp on your legacy for this one. You had an up and down season. This is how you can really make yourself a Longhorn legend. Bold take. I think the offensive line's been really impressive recently, especially just being able to run down our opponent's throats, but also just being smart and disciplined. So I'm going to say 2 penalties or less for the offensive line for the duration of the game. That's holding penalties, that's false starts, all those types of penalties from offensive line, 2 or less there. And I'm going to say our running backs are going to have over 100 yards of receiving. Like I said, I think A&M set up to shut down the run game, the traditional run game, but you can't touch Jaden Blue in space. Trey Wisener and Jared Gibson as well. I mean, they're good receiving running backs. Those linebackers are a little bit slow. The edges are once the edges are moving in a certain direction, it's hard for them to change direction and adjust to a screen pass. So I'm looking for a big receiving game for our running backs.
All right, score predictions. I got Texas 24-10. Brett?
If you would have asked me 2 weeks ago, I didn't have a lot of confidence in this team. I think we've pushed forward, persevered. Offensive line is starting to look really good. A&M doesn't look as dynamic as they did against LSU in recent weeks. I got 34-20 good guys.
Justin, real quick.
30-13.
All right, guys. We all got Texas. Till next time, hook 'em.